All right, we are ready to go. So welcome, y'all. Thanks for getting on. This is our second KSEC media webinar in our series, and tonight we're going to talk about using social media to build our base and to build buzz for our movement. A lot of stuff is going to be fairly 101, but at the end we should have some time to do some questions. But before we get started, is there anything in particular that you all are hoping to get out of this? All right, well, I'm not hearing any input from the folks on the phone, so hopefully we cover things that are useful for you. And if you wouldn't mind just putting yourself on mute while you're not talking, that's cut down the background noise and make for a better quality recording tonight. So yeah, go ahead and get started. My name's Kara Cooper, and I'm the state organizer with the Student Environmental Action Coalition. I get the wonderful pleasure of working with folks in the Kentucky Student Environmental Coalition to make sure that the work that you all are doing on and off campus is as effective as possible. And we wanted to do these media webinars because we know that media is a really great way that we can amplify the voice of what we're doing on our campuses and at the state level. But a lot of folks are really intimidated by using it or just don't know the best practices. So last week we had a webinar on messaging and framing and how to make sure that our messages resonate with the people who we're trying to influence. At the end of the webinar series, all of these webinars are going to go up on our YouTube channel. So if you missed that one, don't worry. We'll be able to get it out to you. And I was hoping to do this webinar with Kayla, who's one of our KSEC delegates. Kayla, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
All right, yay, great. You want to introduce yourself and get started?
Hi, I'm Kayla. I've been a delegate for a year now. I'm the media director of KSEC. So I'm really excited to be on the call. This is the first webinar I've been to. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the last one. So first, we're going to be talking about what social media is used for. So social media is a tool. It's not a strategy. So you shouldn't be using social media as your entire campaign. Of course, you need like your own organization and your own way of actually organizing, not just online, so that you actually get real-world impact. So the first way you can use social media is to build your base. Social media is a really great tool to expand your viewers because currently, like if you have, what? Oh, okay. So if you only have an organization that's on the ground without any social media, you only get contacts through the direct people you're in contact with. However, with social media, you can contact your friends' friends or your friends' friends' friends or just the public in general. So it's a really great tool for getting the amount of people involved. It can also be used to show the tactics you are using to make change happen. So you can showcase what has been effective for you or what has been effective in your ways of achieving your goal. And this can help other organizations and other people achieve the same. A really great tool of social media is that it can reframe the debate. So what this means is that think of a popular view of an issue. So for instance, in Kentucky, the popular view is that environmentalism kills jobs. However, with social media, you can reframe it as environmentalism can create good green jobs. So you can make a debate off of something that's like such common view. It can also become a source of information for our cause. So this is also just like getting the word out there. And it can connect with people's values and move them to action in the real world. So it can get them from actually just like looking online or signing a petition to actually doing something or like giving suggestions on how to get actually involved. So the next slide is that what social media cannot do. So as I kind of discussed before, social media is not just a tool to like, it can't be your only mechanism. So the way to make change happen in communities is of course by real life action. So signing a petition online isn't going to create any societal change. So you shouldn't do social media unless you're doing actual real-life action as well. But social media can be a really, really great tool for actually getting people involved in the real-life action. Back to you, Kara.
Cool. So I wanted to just do some quick review of how we want to use social media for stories. So last week we talked a lot about storytelling. And storytelling is a great way to share information because it not only appeals to people's emotions, it can also appeal to people's shared experiences. Stories are interesting, they build over time, they can put a face on your campaign. Stories are also hard to refute. You can't refute someone's real-life lived experiences in the same way that you can refute facts. And they can help us to build communities. Stories are the way that humans have shared information for a long time. And I want to illustrate that on the next slide here by looking at a couple of different Fahrenheit over the past century, and is projected to rise another 2 to 11.5 degrees Fahrenheit over the next 100 years. Small changes in the average temperature of the planet can translate to large and potentially dangerous shifts in climate and weather. So this picture, or meme, shows us some facts about climate change. In the second image, instead of telling facts, we show a story. And so it says that every year climate change next. So both of these images that we might share on social media sort of talk about the same thing, climate change, and the way that it impacts our lives. But the second image, when we tell a story, is much more motivational, helps people connect to real-life experiences or fears and values. Oh, technology. So some of the stories that we can share are calls to action, both online action and in person. Last week, KSEC shared out through social media a call to action to get people to call in to their legislators around some important renewable energy legislation that we're working on. We can also use it to share celebrations, successful events, political victories, and we really want to make sure that we're using pictures as a way to show the work that we're doing and showing that we're being successful. Also a great way to be a platform for your members' voices and allow folks in your organization to talk publicly about their anger, their hopes, and fears, underlining the extraordinary courage behind their actions. This is a really great way to show potential members or folks out there who watch you on social media that there are real-live people who are part of your organization and that they act based out of their anger, hopes, and fears. It's also really great to share stories of our allies. Kayla was talking about how we can sort of use social media to be a source of information about our cause. We can share stories of allies, and we can share different things that are happening in the news through our social media, as well as make tie-ins to larger conversations. And I put down here like the People's Climate Movement. KSEC is actually working right now on a National Day of Action for October 14th, which is going to be a part of the People's Climate Movement. And we'll use social media to share stories about the action that we're planning, as well as actions that other folks across the country are planning as a part of that movement. So we want to generate good content, but we also want to make sure that we're building a strategic social media plan. So we need to use social media to meet our organizational goals and to continually build the narrative of our campaign. We want it to be a part of a cohesive plan, not just sort of posts that are here and there and that are random. So for example, if the goal of our organization is to build our membership, we can use social media to ask everyone in our organization to invite their friends to like our page. And that'll get us a whole bunch of new folks liking and following our page and being exposed to the things that we're doing. Another goal might be to turn out people to an important event for our campaign. We can use social media to regularly share our Facebook event along with pictures and messages of why different members are attending. And this helps people to know what the event's going to achieve, how they're showing up makes a difference. And also, if we can show pictures and messages of members who are like another quick review from the webinar that we did last week is that powerful stories have powerful characters. So when we're thinking about sharing content out through social media, the messengers that we choose are really important. And we can start to think about how we can use social media strategically by thinking about the characters in the story or the members of our organization and being sure to share those stories out through social media. So you can see a meme here of Angel Hill, who's one of our delegates for KSEC, talking about the Just Transition Working Group. Angel grew up in Eastern Kentucky and has family ties in Southeastern Kentucky. And so Angel is a really excellent messenger to talk about the Just Transition work that we're doing to create a better future in Kentucky where we can stay after graduation. Back to you, Kayla.
So regarding Facebook, the most important part of Facebook is sharing. So everything that you post, you want someone else to share it because sharing broadens your base. Because like I was saying before, if you're only posting to people that like the page, they already agree with your message. You want to get it out to even more people that maybe haven't thought about the message before or maybe are skeptical about it. So when you develop your post, you need to think about, would you personally share this if you saw it? So keep working on your post until you think that you would share it as well. So you want to model your content on Facebook based on what you think people's friends will be interested, because we can't reiterate enough how important your friends' friends are, rather than just the people already in your organization. So the way to make it where your people's friends will be interested is that you make people feel comfortable sharing things to their friends that may think differently. And you also, if you don't share to different people, you won't expand your base, so you just have the same people. So another really useful tool of Facebook is that you can ask questions. So questions allow more people to engage in the conversation and thus engage more people in your organization. And also with sharing photos and videos, make sure you always put a caption with it or just some words, because this draws people to the post instead of just like having them play a video or not really being sure what a picture is for. To have your words in it when you share it anytime makes it a lot more likely that someone else will share it or will actually view the post. So one thing is that requires a lot more information about it, so you can contact us if you want to know more about it, is Facebook storms. So in a Facebook storm, you coordinate with a bunch of allies to share an image or a message at the exact same time. So you would say, at Wednesday at noon, we would all share this message. But this requires a lot of coordination, but it can also be really useful because it can get the message out to a ton of people and people see it like all over YouTube, which is really great. So something to think about is that shares are much more important than likes and comments. Because likes and comments, of course, are good because they show that you're producing good content, and they show like how engaged your supporters are. But shares actually help you amplify your message and get it to a broader base. So shares are much more preferable to likes and comments. So just to reiterate, some 5 tips from Facebook are: first, you want to keep it short, so under 250 words, because no one wants to read or they're too lazy to read something that's really long. Second, you want to make it visual. So adding a photo to your or a link makes it a lot more appealing to someone to click on it or actually think about what the caption says. Third, suggest an action. So you should say on the post, like and share this. So you should share it, and then people will be more likely to share it if you tell them explicitly to do so. Fourth, you want to post daily. So posting daily lets people become more engaged in your organization and see that you are a really active organization that's doing some really cool stuff. You can actually, on your Facebook, if you go to your activity log on your organization group, you can schedule a post to post at certain times. So you could be like, oh, I'm going to post this at 12 o'clock, and then this will post at 12:15. And you can write them way ahead of time so that you don't have to always think you're playing catch-up or worry about it. So fifth, make sure you're relevant. Consistent to organizational message, and supporters will want to like and share. And share other organizations' posts and ask for input, comments, and suggestions. Because if you're sharing other organizations' posts, they will likely share your organization posts. So, Kara?
Awesome. So now I want to dig in a little bit about Twitter and how Twitter can be useful. So Twitter can be useful in sharing powerful images and powerful quotes, sharing the stories of our allies, building relationships with influential people like journalists is actually one of the best ways to use Twitter, because a lot of journalists use Twitter to find what the hot stories are. We can also use it to share breaking news. A lot of things happen, sort of get introduced into Twitter as it's happening. And we can use Twitter for live events, like live tweeting and Twitter chats, which we'll talk about in a minute. So thinking about developing the content of our tweet. A good tweet is short, and it invites the reader to click on something for more information or an image. So some things to think about when you're developing your tweet. The first one is hashtags. And the best practice around hashtags is to use hashtags that are already popular. It's pretty easy to use the search bar in Twitter to find out what things are currently being used as hashtags. And if you use ones that are already being used by other folks, then new people will be drawn to your post. And you also want to think about your audience when you're picking hashtags. So a lot of times we use, as you can see in this image here, we use renewable energy or clean energy as hashtags. But the folks who follow hashtag renewable energy are different people than the folks who follow clean energy, with clean energy being a lot more utilized by activists and organizing groups, and renewable energy being used a lot more by science groups. So you want to think about your audience when choosing your hashtag. You can also tag people in your post. And tagging is just using the @ symbol and then putting someone's Twitter handle. You can tag people that you want to see your posts. So you might tag an ally organization, or you might tag influencers like journalists or legislators, or you can tag your actual target for your campaign. And this makes sure that they get a notification about your post when you post it. Another thing to think about is retweets. And you can use the letters R and T to abbreviate retweets when you're using posts. And so retweets are the ways that we share other people's posts, or we ask for people to share our posts. A lot of folks use Twitter just to retweet information that's relevant to their cause. Like we talked about with Facebook, you can use Twitter to become a source of information for your members about what's happening in your cause. You can also use the tag, get tags on an ally group, and then use the term RT to ask them to retweet to their followers. So I mentioned that we can use Twitter for live events, and live tweeting is one of my favorite ways to use Twitter, which is tweeting while an event is happening. Some tips for live tweeting are to think about writing out your tweets in advance, thinking about what strategic messaging and what sort of information do you want to push out from your organization about the event. You can also tell the story of the event. So tweeting like, Kayla is currently talking, and then put a quote of Kayla and maybe link to a picture. You want to pay attention to the world around you instead of just tweeting the whole time, which is why it's nice to write them out in advance. That allows you to be aware of what's going on and react to how other people are reacting in the room. And then you can follow up and interact with followers, tag them in conversations, and continue the conversation even after the event's over. You know, so if someone retweets something that you've tweeted during your live tweeting event, then you can follow up and tag them and have a meaningful conversation or help plug them into how they can take real-world action. You can also set up a Twitter chat. And a Twitter chat is sort of like a hangout on Twitter. You set up a time, you set up a few people who you know are going to tweet, maybe some folks from different organizations that are allies, or several experts. And then you invite guests and participants to join you and tweet at the same time and have a conversation on Twitter. This can be a really good way to introduce a new campaign or introduce a new hashtag. And if everyone uses the same hashtag, it's easy to figure out who's talking in the conversation. So we talked a lot about how images are powerful and a good way to help tell your story. One way you can do that is through a meme. And a meme is just a picture with words on top of it. And if you mean it, you meme it. These can be fun or serious, but they're really great at inviting sharing, and they can become viral, which just means shared a whole lot. And so we like to use picmonkey.com in KSEC because it's really user-friendly and free. And this picture here is a meme that we just recently created using PicMonkey. And yeah, so memes are great. It can be a picture of someone's face, or it can be other things like, I have some more examples on this next slide. Just things that people are going to want to share. Oh, geez. Okay, here we go. So here you have one image where it has a fact, and then it also invites people to sort of share this and say, I'm a part of this movement. We have another one in the middle that's got an image of people taking action and what the outcomes of that action are. And then we have another one that's just a very plain, simple, straightforward image, but still is very powerful. And so memes can be used in a whole lot of different situations to get your voice across, to get your story told, and to tie some images to that.
So just some overall tips to summarize what we've been over. So pick 2 social medias that you want to use and do them well. So in KSEC, we use Twitter and Facebook. And keep it short, but always write something to make sure people are paying attention to what you're saying. And it's called Facebook, so use pictures because it draws people's attention. And ask yourself, how can you show the message you're trying to portray? And if you show momentum, you build momentum. So show your progress and you'll build your progress. And don't just talk to your supporters, talk to their friends because that's how you're expanding your base. And then always link to your event and post leading up to the event so that you can get a good turnout at your event.
Cool. So I just wanted to mention a few really awesome sources here. A lot of the information from this webinar came from some of these. So the first one is the most amazing online organizing guide ever. And I would really, really say start there if you're interested in upping your online organizing game. This is a series of articles written by 30 of the best online organizers in our country. It's free to use, and they encourage you to share it. So definitely check that out. The second one is a video or another link to another webinar put on by the New Organizing Institute. So definitely check these out for more information. I just wanted to pause here and see if anybody had any questions. Cool. Well, I'm not hearing any questions right now, but like Kayla mentioned earlier, if you want more information about any of this stuff, KSEC is here and available to help you one-on-one with using this information to help your organization be more successful. So definitely feel free to reach out to us. And just so you know, our next webinar will be a week from today at the same time, and we'll be talking about how we can create our own media, including letters to the editor, how to get those published in the newspaper, and how to write engaging blog posts, and a couple of really cool places where you can get your blog posts published. So thanks for joining us, and I hope you all have a wonderful night.